On today's Indie View, you can thank Tiny Mike for the name if you want. I sit down with the face of the franchise, Jarett Diaz. Jarett's a great wrestler and might even be a better guy. He told me all about his upbringing, his love for pro wrestling, and some career goals and highlights that he's had so far throughout his career. And of course, you guys know my main goal for It's Real to Us is to one day become an independent pro wrestling show. So, was I able to lock down the face of the franchise to be the quarterback one for It's Real to Us? Stay tuned to the end to find out. Okay, we now welcome on a very special guest. He is the face of the franchise and a true quarterback one, ladies and gentlemen, Jarett Diaz. Jarett, great to have you on. Thank you so much for the time.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for taking the time. Let's chat, man. Let's talk.
It is so cool to me that I personally get to go from seeing you in the premiere of Gotham Wrestling to now being able to get to talk to you face to face and get to know about your career, get to know about this love that you have for pro wrestling and your story, really. So that's kind of where I want to start. Who is the face of the franchise?
The face of the franchise is the guy that you want to send over to media. The face of the franchise is the guy that you're going to put on the cover of the magazine or the video game or the thumbnail in your upcoming video or the front of your poster for the promotion you're putting together. The face of the franchise is more than just a presentation in wrestling. It's more than just a gimmick. It is really how I care to carry myself. I work with a lot of different promotions all around the country and some overseas, and I've been really fortunate to have those places take chances on me. And part of what I do as the face of the franchise is put myself forward in positions like this, where I can talk about myself. I can talk about the brands that I represent, the companies that I work for. But on a personal level, the face of the franchise is really all I ever really wanted to be. Jarett Diaz is a Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx who played football his whole life, had a dad who played football and was a cop and was a leader in a certain way. And as I grew up playing football in high school and then in college, that leadership position was always thrust upon me. And I try to take it with as much maturity as possible because I'm super fortunate and grateful for those opportunities.
What a tremendous answer. It is nice to meet you.
Great start, no?
Yeah, fantastic show. Face of the franchise, and that's so interesting. Your history with football leading into your professional wrestling career. What type of skills, as a former football athlete, have you taken from the field to the ring?
Sure. So the easy ones, like I just mentioned, leadership and perspective being one, but film study is something that I translated directly over. I went from watching my own game tapes and watching opposition game tapes to watching wrestling tapes and studying in that way and learning through mental reps, watching myself, watching guys that I emulate, watching guys that, they're on my level and the guys that came before me. So film study is another really big one. Obviously athleticism, explosiveness, speed, strength, adaptability, all of those things come into play from any sport transitioning into pro wrestling. But with football, I think the impact and the willingness to absorb contact is the biggest trait from football to wrestling, because football is not a contact sport. Football is a hitting sport, and the aggressiveness and the impacts to the mats, to the floor, to each other's bodies in pro wrestling, all of that translates directly. And then another one I think is probably most important that sort of gets overlooked is persistence, perseverance. As a quarterback, when you are put in a bad spot, or if you put yourself in a bad spot, maybe you throw an interception, maybe you take a bad sack, you still got to get up and play that next play, or you got to come back on the field when it's your turn, when defense gets off the field and it's time to go back to work and it's ready to get that offense rolling. The ability to put it behind you, have a short memory. We don't all, win every match or feel at our best every match, perform at our best every match. But part of it is just, all right, put it behind me. I'll review it when I can, and I'll move forward with something better.
Be a goldfish, as some people might say. Forget about it and move on.
Yeah, that's really the analogy, is just having a short memory, being able to put a past failure behind you and move on to your next one. Because at least in pro wrestling, there's always that next one, especially in the indies. Like, try to keep that schedule as busy as possible. All right, I didn't have my best match here on Saturday night, but guess what? Sunday afternoon, I'm somewhere else in a whole different city with a whole different crowd, ready for me to be at my best. So how do I turn that around and give them everything I can and, give them money's worth?
What's it like watching film of your matches and your promos in comparison to watching old game tape? Is it, oh man, I took a crazy hit, or oh, that was such a bad promo? Or like how does the what's the main difference, I guess?
I think what's interesting is that, even at least in pro wrestling, I never had this feeling in football the way I do with wrestling, but even if something doesn't go the way you want it to, you could still smile about it. You could still, say, you know what, hey, I took a shot, I missed it, whatever. I'll try that differently next time, whether it be in a promo or in a match, or, oh man, I messed that move up that I was trying to go for, or I went on this line, I didn't hit it the way I wanted it to in a promo. And you could smile about it and move on and try it again. But in football, you're never going to have that exact chance back. You could run that play, but it's going to be against a different defense, or, you could try to make that same read, but not every receiver is going to be in the same place again. And those things change. You try to learn from it no matter what, but the circumstances are always changing from game to game in football. Whereas in wrestling, yeah, maybe the crowd's going to be different. Maybe the guy you're wrestling is going to be different, but you can set up scenarios to, mimic past experiences.
When did you first start playing football?
I was told that I had a football with me in the crib. I really started trying to be a quarterback. I remember there's these old photos in a photo album. I'm maybe 6 or 5 years old in a driveway, where I very briefly lived in the suburbs, because I've been in the Bronx most of my life, in the suburbs with a driveway. And my dad had set up cones and chalk lining up the numbers, of the holes 2 through 6 on the right, odd numbers on the left, and then the position, center, guard, tackle, blah, blah, blah. And I'm there taking a snap with a Buzz Lightyear t-shirt on. I'm like 5 years old. And then I started playing contact football, tackle football at 8 years old. Played all the way until I was 20 years old. In college, I went to Anderson University, which is a D2 out in Indiana. I started wrestling a little bit before I finished playing football. There was a little bit of a crossover where I was at Creative Pro Wrestling in Long Island at that school when it very first opened in 2014. I graduated high school, and there was like 3.5 months between finishing high school and reporting for training camp in Indiana. And so I took those 3 months or so. I said, all right, I'm going to dip my feet in here. Pro wrestling school just opened. Kurt Hawkins, Pat Buck, like, it's a great school. I'll give it a shot. And I just dipped my toes in, and it was tough. First, I'm sure every wrestler you probably speak to, if you ask them about their origin, first bumps suck. Running the ropes hurts you back. And even learning how to roll and bump properly is a real challenge. But you get through those first couple of days, and if you can enjoy it and find the passion through the pain, you're going to be fine. So I trained those couple months, and then I went out to play football, and I revisited wrestling a couple years after that.
How did you find yourself in a position where you were doing a crossover situation where you were playing football and then wrestling? What made you want to dip your toe into this new experience while you had been prioritizing football for the majority of your life?
Yeah, well, I was always a fan. As a lot of guys on the indies, that you grow up watching WWE and whatever's on TV. I really love John Cena, Shawn Michaels, Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, like Batista. That sort of ruthless aggression post 2004 era was my guys. So when I started watching at about 10 years old, I saw it and I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, I want to do that one day. When I realized that wrestling isn't exactly on the up and up, that's when I decided, like, hey, this is a job that people can like go learn how to do and achieve. And that's something that I want to try one day. And I want to see if I can hack it. So obviously I was playing football already at that time, at a Pop Warner level. And I knew that I was going to keep playing for as long as I could with football. It helped me start my college education. And I knew that I was going to play in college when I was, I would say 15 years old in high school. I knew that I was going to play somewhere at some level in college. But I always said, whenever I'm done with football, I'm going to try this wrestling thing. So the wrestling school opening was just really good timing for having a break. Obviously, I was training. They hand out off-season handbooks to, each position. You learn the playbook. You go through your workouts. You make sure that you're tracking everything so that when you get to school, when you get to college, they do conditioning tests, they do lifting tests, they do playbook tests. They make sure you've been going through your summer stuff. So I was doing that. And then 3 times a week, I would go to wrestling school at night and start to learn a little bit, knowing that I would go away to football, put wrestling on the side for a little bit. And when I'm ready, it'll be there for me.
It sounds like you have always followed your loves, whether that be football or wrestling, and that you have a competitive edge inside of you that just has a need to compete at all times. Who goes from, I guess it's not uncommon where you have athletes, go transition from football to wrestling.
Right. But all the more reason you've seen examples of it across the years with Roman and Cena and Rock and Goldberg. Like, those are 4 of the biggest names that wrestling has ever seen. Ric Flair for another one. They all played football in college at some level, and a couple even in the pros. So like, the pipeline is there. And yeah, I may not be a lineman or a linebacker like all of those guys were. I was a quarterback. I was under frame. I was undersized. But like you said, I followed my passions, and I'm competitive. And I knew that was something that if I wanted to do it, nobody was going to do it for me. Nobody was going to push me. I had to just go do it.
And I didn't realize how many similarities there were to being on the football field and then being in a wrestling ring. You touched on them already in this interview. And we're talking about you following your love with football and with wrestling. Was there maybe one moment in particular you can think back as a fan of professional wrestling that maybe sparked that love of professional wrestling for you? What was the moment?
It's the first time I ever saw pro wrestling live. It was the first time that I turned on Monday Night Raw. Mind you, I'm 10 years old. It's like January of 2007, I want to say. So I'm 10 years old. And Jeff Hardy was feuding with Umaga leading up to a matchup at the Rumble. And I find out about WWE and like after school program, somebody's playing a PSP. And I see Shawn Michaels doing like a Sweet Chin Music setup. And it's all this cinematic, camera cuts because it's the video game. Boom, hits the thing. And I'm like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. Like, what am I looking at? What did I just watch? And the kid says, oh, it's WWE. Like, you got to watch it. It's on tonight at 9:00. I'm 10. My bedtime's 9:00. So I have to convince my mother, hey, Ma, let me stay up an extra like 30 minutes. Let me just like see what this wrestling thing is about. And after a little convincing, I finally turn on the TV. We're 10 minutes into the show or so. So I turn it on. And the very first thing that I see is Jeff Hardy doing a dive off of the apron onto Umaga, whole big thing. And I'm hooked immediately. I watch as much of the show as I can until I'm forced to go to bed. But from then on, for years, I would stay up past my bedtime secretly with all the lights down and the volume on 1, just to watch it for as long as I can until I got caught and in trouble. Every week growing up, that was my thing. Watch Raw, occasionally watch SmackDown too, and just try to soak it up because I fell in love so quick.
You just unlocked so many memories in my mind. Not only Jeff Hardy, who, if wrestling fans are just getting into it nowadays, they don't realize how big a babyface Jeff Hardy was.
Oh man, dude, unbelievable. And to see him and Matt doing, NXT, TNA crossovers and stuff. I just was with them at House of Glory a number of weeks ago. Like, the love is unlimited for those guys.
Can you talk to me about, have you gotten an opportunity to meet Jeff?
I did, but not an opportunity to chat. Just a hello, how you doing? Shared a locker room, but not too intrusive.
Can you share your thoughts and your experience getting able to meet a wrestler who literally got you into professional wrestling?
Oh, dude, it's amazing. I didn't really get a chance to talk to Jeff, like I said, but I did get a chance a number of times at this point to speak to Zilla Fatu, who of course is Umaga's son. Mm-hmm. And the first time I met him, Zilla straight up says to me, like, are you the first in your family to do this? I'm like, yeah, bro, we're not all like you. but I told him, I was like, hey, man, like, I'm sure you get this all the time, but your dad was in the match. Like, your dad was a big part of getting me into pro wrestling. He was doing that feud with Jeff Hardy, and I was so bought in. And now here I am almost 20 years later, just in love with what we do because of your dad. And he had a great appreciation for that. You know, he's a young guy too, but he got kids himself. And, you know, he identifies how important it is to, I guess, find a passion at a young age and see it through.
Sharing a locker room with Jeff Hardy, talking to Zilla Fatu, the son of Umaga. What a full circle moment both of those seem to be. And while we're talking about Umaga, Hardy, I heard you mention Cena before. Who are some of the other wrestlers who have impacted you in a profound way and maybe inspired you, whether that be from a character point of view or your in-ring work?
So Cena's my absolute number one guy, GOAT. I don't care who knows and I don't care who disagrees. Go argue with a wall. Go argue with your moms. John Cena is my guy. That being said, as a influenceable child and teen, I really got into CM Punk. You know, the rebellious nature, the summer of Punk, sort of on his way from Ring of Honor into WWE and doing his thing at Money in the Bank, and that whole arc was really pivotal for me as a fan. Shawn Michaels is a guy that I loved watching as a kid, as he was, you know, exiting his prime, but still very much active through the late 2000s and into the, you know, the Taker feuds and all that. And that's a guy that I still watch now as a tape study guy. That's probably the number one guy that I watch, being undersized and, you know, wrestling a lot of guys who are so much bigger than he is, but still finding a way to demand attention and to build connection with his crowds. Those are a couple of guys that I really enjoy. As I got older and as I started to get into it as an active guy, as an active wrestler, other than film study guys, just guys that I admire that are, you know, on a level that I'm on or a level above me, like Adam Cole is incredible. Finn Balor is one of the dudes that I look up to, especially when I was first formulating my moveset and figuring out how I wanted to move as an athlete in the ring. I really like Kurt Angle. I've always watched Kurt Angle's stuff. Brock Lesnar is incredible in his own ways that have nothing to do with the way that I move. Ricochet in the opposite direction, where, you know, I strive to move in the way that he can move and still have a sort of hybrid mentality of like, hey, I'm not just trying to be flippy guy. I will ground grapple with the best of them. I will throw some power things in there because, especially in my last year, I put on 35 pounds to really maximize the 6 foot frame that I have and the power potential that I could be bringing to the game too, because on the indies, at least, there are more guys that look like how I looked 30 pounds ago than guys who are 30 pounds heavier than I am now. There's a lot more small guys than there are big guys. So if I can be that middle ground and have matches with big guys and be a small one, but have matches with small guys and still come off as a powerhouse, then that just widens the net of who I can work with and what stories I can tell.
Sounds like you got a pretty smart perspective on where you're at in your career currently. Let's talk about exactly that, your career. When did you begin professional wrestling as an independent star? When did you start on the indies?
So I started properly wrestling, not just in wrestling school, but actively, you know, pursuing bookings and traveling and all that in late 2018. I'm coming up on my 7-year anniversary, which is really exciting. It's really cool. And I've had a lot of cool opportunities, but early on it was just about, you know, getting me ready to have matches, because I'd had some previous training in Long Island when I stopped playing football and I decided to pursue a proper degree in sports broadcasting. I went to Full Sail. I moved to Florida, and that's where I started interning with the Performance Center and going to wrestling school on my own. And that helped me learn, you know, a lot of different things at the same time.
Is there one piece of advice or something you would tell yourself now, 7 years in, if you can go back to talking to your old self when you first started, what is the one piece of advice you would give yourself 7 years?
That's a tough one, because I still feel so young in this game. Like my body feels great. I still find myself learning at least one thing every single time that I perform. And even if it's just the smallest little nugget of knowledge that I can take from, you know, my own experiences, or finding myself in locker rooms with guys that are better than me, that I've been to the dance. Just a couple of days ago, I have a conversation with like Donovan, who is inarguably one of the best wrestlers in the world. I don't care where he's wrestling or who he's wrestling for. I consistently find myself learning things. What I would tell myself 7 years ago, I wouldn't say continue learning because I'm doing that actively. I think something that I didn't realize back then that I know better now is probably to learn how to market myself more quickly, learn how to hone in on what makes me different, what makes me special in this. And with the field of independent wrestlers being so wide, so many different people all looking for their thing, it's so important to figure out what that thing is, not just for your like success in your career, not just for connecting with audiences or getting bookings, but also for your own sense of confidence, of your sense of self, your sense of worth within this business. The more you know about yourself, the better suited you are to keep going.
And I would imagine, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but having a background in sports broadcasting kind of helped you hit the ground running, maybe when it comes to developing your character and working on your promo ability. Is that true?
You would think so, but no, and not at first, at least. And the reason being is you can be as well spoken, as eloquent, as clear as you want to be, or as clear as possible. But if you don't know what you want to say, or if you don't have anything to say, it doesn't matter. So that's really the big part of it, is without my knowing what I want to present, without knowing that I am the face of the franchise, quarterback of the company, without those talking points to build around, I don't have anything to say. Mm-hmm. And that's part of, like, yes, the broadcasting, I guess the ability to public speak goes a long way. But if we're talking promos, you better have something to say, because you don't have anything to say, you are going to flounder all the same. And that's what I found myself doing early on in, wrestling school promo class, just saying a whole bunch of nothing. And it just sounds a little nicer because I have speaking ability.
But there was no heart, no substance, no real
passion. There was no substance. There was no nothing. I didn't have anything to say. Now, mind you, it does help when you actually have a match to build or a story to tell or whatever. Right. Promo classes can be difficult. But if you're thrown into a scenario where, hey, this is a cold match, you're gonna wrestle this guy, and we don't really have a reason why. That's just something we wanted to see. You better think of something. You better figure out a way to sell that story and a way to make your segment seem interesting. Otherwise, who's gonna care?
That's what it's all about. It's about getting people to buy in and to care. And through 7 years, the face of the franchise, I believe you've gotten people to care. Is there maybe one moment you can think back on where you had people truly invested, maybe a career highlight of yours so far?
Definitely. And I'm gonna tell that story, but I'm warning you now, it's gonna end with an invite. Okay? I'm letting you know that now.
That's exciting.
Okay. So
that's the best type of story, is an invite.
Around this time last year, there's a company called We Are Wrestling, and they're based in the Bronx, very homegrown, made in the Bronx, is a big sponsor, and it's this company that really celebrates Bronx culture, New York City culture, and it mostly features talent that is from the Bronx or the surrounding boroughs, and those fans get behind their people like you would never imagine. What's great about this show is that for most of its run, it functioned out of the gymnasium that I went to elementary school at. It's an elementary school, middle school combo school. And I went to elementary school at this place, and it fits a few hundred people and they show up. But for me, it's like a homecoming. Okay. So add those pieces together. For me, it's a homecoming. And all of these people, a couple hundred people, get behind theirs. Boom. So pick these two little points. I wrestled 2 times that are worth talking about there. One of them was a tag team match with AEW's Sky Blue versus Ruthless Lala and Lucas Chase. It was a mixed tag team match. And this match happened to be on my birthday in my home, with my people behind me. And I had a longtime friend of mine. She brought together like 20 of our friends, and my family, and some extended family all show up to the show. So I don't know they're going to be there. I hit my entrance and I get in the ring, and that's when I clock them there in the corner. and I'm like holding back all the emotions that I want to like run out and hug them, but I can't because I'm at work. But I have the match. The match goes well. And as I'm getting ready to walk out of the ring, the whole audience starts screaming happy birthday and starts singing to me. That was really fun. That's a really heartwarming feeling. But that had nothing to do with the story we were telling. Here's the story. Here's the real story. The second time that I wrestled there, where I knew every single person in that arena, in that gymnasium was behind me, was I wrestled for the Grand Championship against Dan Moff. If you know Dan Moff's a killer. If you don't know Dan Moff is a House of Glory and Ring of Honor original and an absolute monster. He's like 5'10", wide as a Mack truck, bald-headed and psycho. And Moff was trying to kill me. He was cursing people out. He was screaming at my dad in the front, in the railing area.
It's good heat.
And it's great heat. And when I hit my entrance, I've never been a part of something so ubiquitous, so fully organic, to be like in complete support of just one guy. I felt the strength and the love and the pride of the Bronx, of every Puerto Rican in the crowd, of the community that raised me. And even though I lost that match, I'll never forget it.
Hell yeah, bro.
Goosebumps thinking about it. It's great.
You had the people behind you. I can only imagine what you were feeling in that moment. I mean, it's a little bit of a cliche in wrestling. They do the goosebumps all the time.
Yeah. Think about it like this. It's what you heard at Gotham Wrestling times 100. Yeah.
Gotham was rowdy too. So
they were rowdy, and they liked me. And to be fair, this was their debut taping. It was their first time being there in that venue, in that building. And some of that crowd did not know who I was, and some did. So by the next few times we get up in there at Gotham at Levity, they'll know who I am.
I can imagine why both of those moments hold a special place in your heart. They sound like they were super meaningful. And I can only imagine what you were going through while they were happening. So congratulations on those.
Tears when on the ring announcing. I'm just trying to hold them back.
I'm sure you're going to have many moments like that too over the course of your career. A moment that I want to talk about that I came across just doing a little bit of research was your appearance for AEW. Do you think you could tell me about that?
Yeah, so I've had a number. I ran through a cycle of tapings at AEW when they were running AEW Dark and Dark Elevation at Universal Studios. Despite living in New York, I was a part of the Florida talent pool that they were pulling from, just from having spent time there on the independent scene and living there during college. So they were pulling independent talent and extra talent from the Florida pool. When they started running Dark, they were pulling me in. I was like, yeah, I'll come to Florida. You guys are paying well. It's going to be great. And I would come down and I think I ran like 5 or 6 episodes of tapings there for Dark. Amazing experiences. And I briefly worked at NXT UK for the end of its run as a production assistant and junior editor. That's not a lot of people know that, but I got a ton of.
I was a production assistant for WWE at one point.
Oh, dude, we'll talk more about that. But yeah, I got a chance to learn a lot about live wrestling television and wrestling tape for television while working at WWE. So I was really fortunate to translate those abilities and that knowledge to move it into AEW TV. Like, it's not just working the hard cam. It is understanding ad breaks. It is understanding spacing and pacing. It is understanding where those floor cams are as well as the hard cam. Like, there's more than just do all your moves towards the hard cam. It's a lot more than that. So I was really fortunate to take that skill that I learned in my corporate career and translate it to my wrestling career. And there were great opportunities. Like I said, I learned a ton. I networked a lot. I met a bunch of cool people. Part of the Gotham Wrestling opportunity that I got, the showrunner's Dave Marquez, and he's tight with Peter Avalon. Well, I wrestled Peter Avalon at AEW, and that's how that came to be.
I'm blown away by your background too in production and how that helps your mind for wrestling, because like you said, it's more than just looking at the hard cam, and having that background and knowledge of production just I would imagine helps you in so many different ways, both with AEW and now your matches too with Gotham Wrestling and on the independent scene. So growing up a WWE fan, but having the experience of working for AEW at this moment in time, what would you say your goal is when it comes to professional wrestling?
My goal is to make professional wrestling my primary source of income. And there is no company preference. There's no flag bearing here. I wave the flag of the promotions that I work for right now, and I wave the flag that says Jarett Diaz brand right behind me. I feel so strongly about wrestling fans not being toxic, not being divisive in a way where you can only watch one or you can only watch the other.
Tribalism is what is
tribalism. Exactly. The word was escaping me, so I was talking around it. Yes, the tribalism of wrestling fandom is, as a wrestler and as a fan, absurd. There's so much great wrestling in WWE, and there are plenty of great stories being told in AEW. And I know you usually only hear the opposite. Oh, WWE is only about the stories and the characters and the production, and AEW is where the real graps are at. No, guys, those rosters, both of them, are so strong and so stacked. And could they both use Jarett Diaz? Absolutely. But the reality of the situation is there is no point in pitting one against the other. Let them do that. Let the corporations battle it out for ratings and ad revenue and ticket sales and all that stuff. And let us enjoy it. We should be enjoying wrestling, and us as wrestlers, we should be pursuing better wrestling.
That's such a healthy mindset. You gotta, and this is a John Cena quote that I'm ripping off from Chris Van Vliet, but control the controllable. You work on being your best self, and whatever opportunity presents itself is the opportunity that you're supposed to be taking at that time. So I
mentioned the conversation I had with Dijak a few days ago. That was the theme of it. Control the controllable. As somebody who's still learning and still growing in this, asking somebody like that for some advice, if that's it, I'm just going to keep doing that, because that's a great piece.
Keep on going, brother. You got a healthy mindset. You're super talented. So the work ethic is there. I have no doubt we will be seeing you across screens sometime very, very soon. But before then, I thought we could try something kind of fun. So this is going to be a fire round where I'm going to just throw a bunch of questions at you, and you got to answer them as quick as possible. Take as long as
let's do it. But if I start jumping into a story, don't let me if that's not what you want. Cut me off.
If it's a good story, I have to. This is podcasting 101.
All right.
Okay, so just going to throw it at you. Who's the most famous wrestler you've ever been in the ring with?
In the ring with? Oh, man. Technically Ricochet, but we've never wrestled before.
It's a Ricochet show, so we'll accept that answer.
All right.
Do you have any pre-match or post-match rituals or routines?
I have two. My number one is I always go to the bathroom, because the last thing that anybody should ever have to experience as a wrestler is doing a number one or a number two on a real hard bump. And that is my worst fear in life. That's my number one. My number two, I squat in a corner. I try to get some quiet. I do some slow breathing. I just think about what I'm about to go do. It's something that I took from football. I remember when I was in college and the game started speeding up in a major way. One of my assistant coaches, the quarterback coach specifically, he always told me, like, hey, before you hit that cadence, when you're finished making your reads, before you take that snap, and go execute. So that's what I do.
That minute and that moment is for you.
Yep. What's
the funniest thing that has ever happened to you in an impromptu way during a match?
Oh, man. There are a few times where I'll be wrestling, and, not to peel the curtain back, but I know what we're going to do in there. And I'll take a bump and maybe end up not where I'm supposed to or anything. And it all just leaves. It all just disappears. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens to the best of us. but sometimes it'll just leave. And then I got to tell the ref, because the best way to communicate with the other wrestler, if you're not together, of course, is call the ref over. I'll call the ref over and be like, yo, ref. Mind you, I've taken a bump, so I'm on the ground. Ref, what are we doing? I don't know where we're at. Where are we going? Far too many times. Not to an unprofessional level. I'm pretty good about that. But every once in a while, I'll just need a little reminder.
It's completely understandable too. Just taking a huge lariat, having your bell rung, needing a minute or at least
it happens to the best of us. It really does.
And maybe working off of that question, what's the toughest or stiffest move you've ever taken?
Okay, the stiffest move that I've ever taken happened recently, and it was in a match against, and if you're not familiar with him, look him up, because the dude is a dog and one of my best friends in this business, which is why I'm not mad that he hit me so damn hard, is O'Shea Edwards. Big Bad Kaiju on Twitter and Instagram. Shout out O'Shea. I travel with him to the UK and to Germany a number of times with our little travel group. But the dude hits so damn hard. He's like a Mack truck. And I really prefer when he's on my team, but sometimes we mix it up.
What was the move? Was it a close?
It was just a lariat. It was just I gave him a Canadian. This is a big man. This is like 6'3", probably 265. I give him the Canadian, far more athletic than he should be. Takes the bump over backwards, gets to his feet, and just rails it in. Just nails me across the chest and neck. Safe, but I didn't want to get up after that.
So you're in a seated position, right?
And if the match was over, I would have been fine with that. If he just pinned me there, I would have took it.
I'm imagining like a JBL clothesline from hell.
Yeah, think of that. That's exactly what it looked like.
What's your dream match?
My dream match. I think the answer changes over the years. As I learn more about what I want out of this industry, and as I learn more about who I am as a performer, those things change. Somebody that I really look up to in the way that he structures matches and the way that he performs, but also in the way that he carries himself outside of the ring, and I think you'll start to see the parallels, is Cody Rhodes. He's a guy that I've been very fortunate to ask advice of more than once and have been able to be in the ring with him. Actually, he's the most famous. It would be Cody.
Move over, Ricochet.
And I never, like I said, I didn't wrestle this guy, but there were sessions where I was able to get in the ring with him and learn. And that, obviously, you've seen the status that he's risen to, the success that he's had from ROH World Champion when I met him to helping found and form AEW all the way to being WWE's QB. That's the dream match for sure.
Is there a piece of advice he gave you all those years ago that you've kept with you up until now?
Yeah, but it's not even like life advice or something. It's just in ring. He told me this very small thing that I probably would have heard at some point down the road, but he just got to me early. And it's when you're selling a limb, brother, protect it. If somebody's working your wrist and working your arm and you take a move, your sell is not ow, oh my God, ow. It's ow, like sell it big, but away from the guy that's coming to keep attacking it for just, realistic purposes. If I take this, this big arm DDT, boom, and I take the hard bump and I'm selling the shoulder and I pull myself away to the corner, put that corner back in the buckle away from the guy that's coming for it. It's a small thing, but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, we are humans and we're prone to protect ourselves. If we're hurt, you're going to want to protect that part of your body. It's simple and something maybe we wouldn't think about, but it's a minor detail that goes
exactly. And it sometimes goes counter to what we learn in wrestling, which is like to feed. If this is more pulling the curtain back, but like if I'm about to take a dragon screw, I might lead with my left leg. But opposite logic says if he's already been attacking my left leg, I should be protecting it, and he should be coming to get it. So it's finding that balance, right? It's finding that balance from being easy to work with and being available for the guy who's on offense while also presenting a believable performance.
Shocker, Cody Rhodes knows what he's talking about.
You wouldn't believe it.
All right, and last question. What's the hardest part about being a pro wrestler?
The hardest part about being a pro wrestler, if you're really, really pursuing this like I am and like many of my peers are, if you really want this to be your life, you have to treat it like it's your life already. So that doesn't mean just showing up on the day and getting in the ring. It means training and lifting and marketing yourself and having the right gear, having good looking photos, doing those promos and putting them out for shows. It means being ready to travel. It means balancing the entirety of a lifestyle as a pro wrestler with what for most people need is the real job, the job that pays the bills. For me, right now I have 3 gigs. I have a full-time gig, I have a part-time gig, and I have a freelance gig with the NFL. There's a lot of different things happening, a lot of spinning plates. But part of being a pro wrestler and pursuing this life is finding a way to spin all those plates and sacrificing where you have to. You may have to sacrifice, spending certain time with your friends or seeing family or personal time of just like laying back on the couch. Mind you, I play Madden sometimes. I'll find some time to relax, but realistically, you have to find a way to balance it all. And it's the toughest thing that one can do is figuring out how to live the lifestyle of a pro wrestler and keep your other priorities in line.
Man, I can't tell you how exhausted I am hearing what's going on.
Brother, last weekend I had, not to continue hammering the point down, but last weekend I had a show in Pennsylvania on Friday, Minnesota on Saturday, back to Connecticut on Sunday, and then a shoot with the NFL on Tuesday, all the while having these other jobs and trying to get to the gym and catching these flights. And it's a lot. And what you can do as best you can is just lean on the people you love and lean on your peers who are going through those same things.
Do you sleep ever? That's one of the
Yeah, just not enough, man. It's a big part of recovery. So you find sleep where you can, but when there's things to do, who can sleep?
Good for you, man. Good for you following your passion and not taking no for an answer. The cliche in wrestling is blood, sweat, and tears. And hearing you and your story, I have no doubt that is what you are giving tenfold back in the hopes of following your passion and being a professional wrestler. So good on you, man. Keep on moving forward. I have no doubt you're going to get to everywhere you want to go. So my last question is the hope of It's Real to Us one day is to be an independent pro wrestling show.
Love that. I saw it bookmarked on the Instagram. My eyes lit up at it.
If that dream comes to fruition, can we call on you? Can we use Jarett Diaz at one of our shows? I think the face of the franchise would be a perfect fit with It's Real to Us.
If It's Real to Us comes to fruition and it becomes the professional independent wrestling promotion that you want it to, you know where to find me. And every promotion needs a quarterback.
All right. I love it. That's a verbal yes. We got him, guys.
Happy to be a part of it. You guys, you and your boys are fantastic. Meeting you guys at the show was really cool. Seeing the enthusiasm that you guys bring to the table, not only when you're live at the show, but also on social media, playing those games. I saw a segment that was speak when you see a wrestler better than Kyle Fletcher. It was one of the recent posts. Kyle's fantastic, so I get it. But just seeing the fervor and the passion that you guys bring to being fans of this, there is no doubt that if it becomes an independent promotion, look at the Deadlock guys. All you got to do is have a passion for this and a general idea of how to run a business. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. We're going to pencil you in. Not sure when it's going to happen, but like you, I have a passion for pro wrestling, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I have made a promise to my audience, and I am a man of my word. So it will happen one day.
100%.
All right. Thank you, Jarett. Appreciate
it. Thanks so much, man. Have a great night.